wanted to bring today's episode talking all about the medical jargon around pregnancy loss. And so this episode does have a trigger warning, and we are talking about miscarriage, pregnancy loss, kind of what to expect if you are going through this right now, or maybe you've gone through it in the past, and really how to navigate the medical system, what you've been told by your doctor as far as different medical terminology, some medication you might be recommended, really how to educate yourself as you are going through a loss. So wanted you to listen to today's episode. Again, there is a trigger warning on this episode. Excited for you to listen. Let's go. Okay, so today, as we were saying, we're going to be talking all about pregnancy loss and some of the medical jargon. So a lot of the couples we work with, they've been through multiple failed IVFs, they've canceled cycles, been told they're, poor responder. They may have experienced pregnancy loss as well, stillbirth. And so today I wanted to take you through this to really empower you to be able to, it's really important to assemble the team around you. And a lot of times when we're going through this, we're experiencing a pregnancy loss, we may not even know what all this terminology means. We could be, our medical team may be, throwing these things at us. And this is to really educate yourself. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you've already experienced it. But maybe you're currently in the middle of one. And so wanted to give some education around this piece. And so excited to have Fatima and Sam back on the podcast. They're part of our team here at Fab Fertile. So excited to have them here. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey,
okay.
here.
Awesome. So let's kind of go through some of these definitions, and there's a few of them here. So just sort of what we can, all these different, what they're calling different types of pregnancy loss. So let's talk about a chemical miscarriage. So who wants to take that one?
Go ahead, Sam. Yeah, so a chemical miscarriage, is a pregnancy that ends before 5 or 6 weeks. I personally like to call it a chemical pregnancy loss because miscarriage can make you feel like you miscarried and you did something wrong and you didn't do anything wrong. So just that's my personal language that I choose to use, and I know that most of our team uses as well. So yeah, chemical pregnancy loss it's early, and you may not even know that you were pregnant unless you were actively trying and really on top of it. And you may not have even gotten a positive pregnancy test yet. So it can be a really early loss, like I mentioned, but it can also be really hard to recognize it as a loss. I think some of those that experience it just don't even recognize that this was something to be acknowledged because it happened before they even had their first doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
And then we have
be
that
invalidated in their grief and feel like they're alone in this space and not be validated by doctors or not acknowledged by doctors.
Another one we hear a lot then is the miscarriage or pregnancy loss. Fatima, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, miscarriage, or it's also known as silent miscarriage. And basically you could experience cramping or light bleeding. And there may not even be any warning signs of the loss that you're about to experience. And there might not even be any indication that there's anything of concern. For example, my first miscarriage was, in terms of the definition, miscarriage because I had no idea. I thought everything was fine. I was, went in for my 12-week ultrasound. And at that point, I found out that, my pregnancy ended at around 9.5 weeks or so. And it was devastating. It was very jarring to find out at that point that the pregnancy had ended. There was absolutely no indication, no bleeding, no cramping. The only thing I had noticed at that time was the loss of the nausea. But again, that could differ from person to person. Just because you don't experience nausea anymore, it doesn't mean that, it's a sign that you're miscarrying. It just means that, it doesn't mean anything really until you actually go in for a blood test or an ultrasound. And that's when you would find out if you're having a miscarriage or a silent miscarriage. And it's at that point you might want to consider next steps.
And the bladed ovum, Sam?
Yeah, so this is when the embryo stops developing before a heartbeat even develops. So this is often diagnosed again at that first ultrasound when you go in and you're hoping to see, your baby for the first time, and you learn that they're not there.
We've got many couples that have experienced an ectopic. So Fatima, share a little bit about that one.
Ectopic pregnancy is an interesting one because the ovum, implants itself, the embryo implants itself somewhere other than the uterus. And you can't have a pregnancy 9 months outside of the uterus. It's not good for the mom. It's not good for the baby. The baby won't survive, and it's a risk for the mom. And some of the signs that you may, and of course, unfortunately, that pregnancy needs to be terminated. And your doctor may suggest either a medication or a DNC. And a few signs of ectopic pregnancy could be abdominal pain that worsens, heavy vaginal bleeding or lower back pain, abnormal HCG levels, which are drawn through blood at your doctor's, so not a pregnancy test. But at the same time, HCG is one of those things. It's important to note that the levels can vary from pregnancy to pregnancy and from person to person. So looking at an HCG level doesn't really give you an indication of how well your pregnancy is really going. But as far as ectopic pregnancy is going, your doctor will tell you, looking at the HCG levels, whether, and in an ultrasound as well, to see where the pregnancy has ended up, because you might not know where the pregnancy is until you see an ultrasound. And most of the time, the pregnancy in an ectopic pregnancy ends up in the fallopian tube. So that's not where you want the pregnancy to land.
Well, something else that's really, I think, interesting about the ectopic pregnancy is that there are certain conditions that you can have if there's any scarring on your fallopian tubes, or if you have something like endometriosis, you are at higher risk of having ectopic pregnancy, and your care team might recommend that you contact them sooner, like going in closer to 8 weeks versus 12 weeks for that first ultrasound, so that they can make sure that it did successfully pass through the fallopian tube. But again, this is the pregnancy may still be progressing when you have to make the decision to terminate it for your health. And that can be a really devastating experience of having to navigate that. And also, again, like it's often a procedure. And so you have to do a lot to take care of yourself after as well. And so just again, another heavy example of pregnancy loss.
And molar pregnancy. We have many people that have experienced molar before they come to see us. And then because after a molar, you're asked to refrain from trying for typically 3 to 6 months, which then becomes the perfect time to work on your diet and lifestyle to improve the chances of a successful pregnancy. But obviously going through the molar in itself and then being told that time frame where you're not allowed to try can be extremely difficult. So Sam, you wanted to share anything about molar?
Yeah, so typically after pregnancy loss, depending, of course, what type and when, your care team might say, like, hey, after your cycle returns or a month or two, like sometimes there isn't a long wait. But because molar pregnancy is a genetic anomaly that develops abnormal tissues in your uterus, you need to wait usually 3 to 6 months. And again, like the pressure of wanting to have your child that's able to be delivered full term, like you want that. And depending on what your journey's been like, you might have a real sense of urgency and being told you have to wait, for up to half a year. Like that's a big chunk of time when you're trying. And so just giving yourself so much compassion and being able to take that time to really work on the things that you can control, so that when you are able to go back to actively trying, you spend some time on your mental, emotional, your diet, whatever you can control, because during that time, your body just really needs time to heal and to address what went on, so that you can then, move forward without having the chance of further complications.
And then we have the spontaneous miscarriage or pregnancy loss. Fatima, will you share about that one?
Yeah, spontaneous, just making sure I'm unmuted this time. Spontaneous miscarriages, it's bleeding and birth without intervention. So that's it's different than a silent miscarriage or a missed miscarriage, in the sense that it's happening. It's happening spontaneously, but you may not know entirely until you have an ultrasound, until you see the doctor, until you have a blood test that shows HCG levels that are lower. And you may even need multiple tests to confirm that it's completely dissipated, that has, it's no longer there. And ultrasounds will show things detaching that are detached from the uterus wall. And this one is a little difficult because you might not expect it. It might just happen at any moment. And you definitely will need support around this. And you may not even know that you're having an active miscarriage, and that can be a little scary, and it could be jarring. And it's important to get support around that time, in terms of, making sure you have family support, making sure you have people around you to give you guidance, your doctors, your support team, and really, really take care of yourself, because when you're in that space, mentally, emotionally, it's really difficult as it is, of course, but just physically, just having to go through that miscarriage and understanding what's happening in your body and addressing that in the moment can be really difficult.
I also think it's important to share that there's many reasons that you may bleed during a pregnancy, even a healthy pregnancy. There's only one time that it would be a pregnancy loss. And so although you might experience this and it absolutely could be a loss, being able to just communicate with your care team so that they can, help you just figure out what is going on. Because every time you bleed during pregnancy does not mean the end of your pregnancy.
Exactly. And we're talking all about some definitions today and talking about the medical jargon. And we're also doing another podcast that you can find here on the mental emotional side of this, because we're kind of talking very clinical on, these definitions. And, there's obviously a lot of heartbreak, grief, loss that we're going to address in our next podcast episode we're doing. So make sure you definitely check that out, coming soon, directly after this one, actually. So let's talk about vanishing twin syndrome, Fatima.
Oh, that one is an interesting one, because when you are pregnant with twins, it's a condition in which a set of twins or multiple embryos dies in utero. So they disappear, or they get either fully or partially reabsorbed as an outcome of what's called a spontaneous reduction of multi-fetus pregnancy to a singleton pregnancy. So it gives you the image of a vanishing twin. So you might have, in your first ultrasound, might have seen two embryos, and you go to the next ultrasound and you find that one embryo is no longer there. Not necessarily, there's no sign of loss really, through bleeding or anything like that. It's just reabsorbed into the body, and that is something that happens. It's not unusual for that to happen either. So it's just an embryo that's inside in your uterus seems to disappear. That's what's called a vanishing twin syndrome.
I think what's trickiest about that one too is that you still have this one pregnancy that is successfully progressing, and you're likely to deliver this healthy child, but you're still mourning this other that isn't, and you're not going to give birth to and have present. And so I think it's very difficult for sometimes your community to understand your suffering and your grief, but also like your child that is here, like being able to find ways to honor and to, recognize that they did have a sibling in the womb before this happened. And so I definitely think being able to respect your mental emotional experience with this, because there isn't a script for it, and it's very complicated, because you definitely see the ebbs and the flows of the joy and the sadness all at the same time.
So let's talk about some of the medical terminology here. So if you're going through a pregnancy loss, there's going to be some terminology they're going to use. They're going to use it for insurance purposes, for ICD codes if you're in the States. And so let's talk about some of those words that they may use for pregnancy loss. And some of them can be quite triggering. So Fatima, let's go Sam. Do you want to share with those?
Yeah, so I think it's really important for us to start a little bit with like the history of this. So, in the medical field, the word abortion is used to diagnose pregnancy loss, and of course, that can be very triggering, scary, frustrating, especially if you're not aware of that. Which is why we are sharing that with you today because we want you to have this information. But the reason it's used is because the original definition of abortion from the 1500s is the product of an untimely birth or the expulsion of a fetus before it's viable. So the definition that we associate with it today didn't start until the 1900s. And so they're not trying to be malicious, although of course we wish for the language to change. There is like a historical significance to why they used to use this word. And so when you look at your medical sheets, the terminology that may be used for your insurance company, those ICD codes, you might see terms like threatened abortion, spontaneous abortion, complete abortion, complete miscarriage. There's also a term that we definitely want you to be aware of, habitual aborter not pregnant, which is when you've had more than 2 miscarriages. And then there's also pregnancy with abortive outcomes. So you may not see this, but you may see this. And we would definitely want to acknowledge that these terms can be really challenging to see, but we want you to understand that they're being used simply for insurance reasons and medical language. This is not what we use to actually describe abortion in today's world.
Yeah, those recurrent losses, to hear that can be it can be devastating, right? Because you're like, this is not something that you want to happen. Not to say that someone wants an abortion, but there's a choice there, obviously. Anything you wanted to say there, Fatima, on that one?
Yeah, no, seeing that kind of diagnosis on your insurance or on your charting and then having to fill out forms and write it down yourself, maybe even, that could be triggering and that could be upsetting. But again, know that it's not malicious and know that, initially when the term first came out, it wasn't meant to be something that came from your own intention. It was a product of an untimely birth at the time. So looking at it from that lens should give you some ease in terms of, your own intentions around your baby. And it doesn't take away from the love that you had for your baby and the expectation and the hopes that you had for that baby.
So let's go into here. So diagnosing a miscarriage or pregnancy loss. Fatima, let's talk about that and sort of start with spotting. What are we seeing there?
Well, spotting isn't necessarily a sign that you're miscarrying. There are several reasons why you could be spotting, and miscarriage is just one of those reasons. And you don't know that you're actually miscarrying until you actually go to the doctors, get a ultrasound or a blood test. And even then, you won't have an indication of whether you're actually miscarrying or not. You might need a couple of ultrasounds or you might have to wait a few weeks. But spotting really is a normal part of pregnancy. That could just be the embryo implanting into the uterus. And it's okay. It's normal to see that.
Yeah, I definitely, with my son, had spotting at, I think it was week 5. Everybody was kind of panicking. I remember going to the bathroom, seeing the spotting, and my husband's father he passed away just shortly before this. I remember my mother-in-law, like, I can't take another loss and, what's happening here. And, luckily enough, that was just, I think, the implantation. Anything you want to say on spotting, Sam?
Yeah, I've seen this with many clients, with friends. Like this is not uncommon. Even later in your pregnancy, like sometimes it just happens. Like you're growing a whole human inside your body, and sometimes it's going to happen. And so obviously listen to your intuition and know when to reach out for help. And there's no, there's no harm in reaching out to your doctor and saying like, hey, like I really want to get things checked up. But just know that there's only one time that it would be a pregnancy loss, and that you may expect it. And I think the more you talk to other pregnant people, you'll learn that it is common for people to experience a little bit of bleeding during their pregnancy.
And so Sam, let's look at the blood work piece with this. So to diagnose pregnancy loss using blood work, what are we seeing there?
Yeah. So again, I want to start off with what Fatima said before. Like everyone's HCG levels can be dramatically different. And there's a very wide range of what is considered like healthy and progressive in a pregnancy. And so usually what your doctor is looking for is for that continued increase in those early stages of your pregnancy. And so being able to go back in and see usually it's over like a 48 to 72 hour period. So can be exhausting. You might be visiting the doctor way more than you want to. So be kind to yourself, maybe take some, calm time, clear your calendar if you can, to just like give yourself a lot of self-compassion. But yeah, so they'll track it over the course of a few days to see if there has been the increase that you would see in a healthy pregnancy. But please don't go to Google and look at what a healthy level of HCG is, because it is dramatically different for not only every person, but for every pregnancy. So if this is your second pregnancy, it's likely to be completely different than what you experienced with your first. So the best thing you can do is just communicate with your doctor and then be able to go in a few consecutive times. And again, be compassionate with yourself. The mental and emotional toll of that can be super, super, super exhausting. So do whatever you can to take care of yourself and get some good quality sleep during that time, and recognize that you might see results you don't want to see, but you also might see the continuation of a healthy pregnancy.
And next we have the ultrasound. I'll let Fatima take that one.
Yeah, and ultrasound even might not give you the indication that you want, at least initially. And your doctor may even recommend that to come back for another ultrasound just to see what's happening. And the hope there might be either you miscarry on your own, or the pregnancy continues. And so there will be another ultrasound to see the, complete the completion of the continuation either of the pregnancy or the completion of the loss. And that will also determine whether they want to do they want you to take medication to remove the pregnancy, or a DNC to remove the pregnancies, for testing and such. And an ultrasound is really where you want to go and see what is happening outside of a blood test. And again, to Sam's point, you want to make sure that you're giving yourself enough self-compassion and enough care, and reaching out to your care team and getting enough sleep, and understanding that, loss, although your own loss is devastating, know that it's not your fault. Know that having a pregnancy loss, and at least in the first trimester, is extremely common. And that you need time to really take care of yourself, and allow yourself that self-compassion to come in, and indulge in some really much needed self-care.
Yeah, your grief is valid no matter what your pregnancy loss looks like, no matter what happened, what type it is. Like we talked about earlier, your grief is valid, and you are not alone. This is unfortunately happening to more people than you probably realize. And if you feel safe reaching out to people, there's likely going to be someone in your community that has experienced this and maybe can hold space for you a little different than friends or family that haven't. I also recommend, if you can, avoid going to these doctor's appointments by yourself. Sometimes the doctors are moving quite quickly. They see this more often than you see it. And so they might not have the same level of, I don't want to say compassion, because I believe most of them do, but they don't have the time to stay with you and to give you that space that you deserve. And so being able to have someone with you as often, as frequently as you can, I think is really important.
And so your medical team may recommend a number of different medications for these, depending on which trimester you're in. So that's something you need to discuss with your doctor. So those would may be recommended for you. So let's talk about the DNC and D&E, kind of what those are. So Fatima, you want to take the DNC?
Can I say one quick thing about medications? We're not medical providers, so we won't dive deep into the actual medications, but you may feel a pressure to make a really quick decision because your body is experiencing a loss, and it generally will need, it's possible it needs some support, and medications can assist you in having a like completing the pregnancy loss in the comfort of your home and the privacy of your home. And so although it definitely is something that can be very difficult and challenging, know that there are services like our community or pregnancy loss doulas that can help navigate what these different medications mean to you. So although you might feel a lot of pressure, know that you do not have to make the decision then. You do deserve the space to be educated.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point, Sam. And I would also like to add in that you don't have to take medication or do a DNC if you don't want to. You can wait to see if the pregnancy will leave on its own and discuss with your doctor and see what your options are and reach out to a miscarriage doula if you can, if that's available to you. And for DNC, so DNC is usually performed in the first 13 weeks of pregnancy. And that's dilation and curettage. And it's performed under a general anesthesia or in an OR, an operating room. And usually there are instruments that are used for that procedure. And an outpatient procedure where the patient can go home shortly after surgery. Again, it's nice to have someone with you if you do choose to go with this option. You do need support, whether it's from family, friends, or like Sam said, with somebody who you feel in the community in your care team that gets you, that gets where you are, that understands your loss, that can hold space for you in your grief. You don't want to do this alone. Ideally, you also want to have someone to go back home with you to support you after this procedure.
So we haven't talked a lot about later term loss, but if someone does experience later term loss, like 13 weeks or up to 20, so like, that middle stage there, you may be presented with the opportunity to do a dilation and evacuation or a D&E. What this would be done for is, so you might not be able to do a D&C because you're further along, but you may want to avoid having an unmedicated or unassisted birth, which for many, mental, emotional reasons, physical reasons, that might be a choice you really want to make for yourself. And so knowing that is a later term option that is generally available. It again is not necessarily conducted in an operating room, and you're definitely going to want, again, that care team and that ability to have a lot of rest and recovery. After both of those procedures, there may be some vaginal bleeding. There is definitely going to be some time that your body needs to repair. You did go through a procedure. You may require pain management. And again, this is loss. This is a traumatic event. And so being able to have that compassion and the support around you to help you navigate this, although the trauma of the situation and the grief of the situation is not going to go away with time, we definitely want to make sure that you're getting adequate sleep and have people to make sure you're staying fed and able to take care of yourself for your basic needs at that time.
Yeah, and Fab Fertile, we obviously have talked a lot on the podcast about, the gut microbiome and food sensitivities and, looking at your genetics different from the ones you do at the fertility clinic and your blood chemistry, so the biochemical piece. And, we have a nutrition person as part of our program. We also have Sam and Fatima as our fertility mindset coaches, because a lot of people have either experienced loss before coming to see us, and sometimes they experience loss during the program. So it's really important to have someone, to walk along. We can never walk in your exact shoes. I haven't experienced loss. Fatima has experienced it. Sam, was on her own journey, but it's having someone to walk alongside of you. And sometimes we second guess ourselves, kind of like, oh, I'm feeling this way. Maybe that's not valid, or the doctor told me this and I don't really know. And so having someone to talk with on this is really important. That's why I wanted to bring this, and it can be, this is quite a heavy, we're going very clinical here, right? The next one we'll do more of the mental emotional side of things. But because obviously in the hospital setting or in a doctor's setting, it can be very clinical. And like Sam was saying and Fatima was saying, this is common, right? And your physician will maybe seeing this on a regular basis. And for you, it could be your first one, or maybe you've gone through, multiple losses. So it is to be kind to yourself and to, and even maybe this episode, you're like, damn, this thing is like triggering. Like even going through, the teams had this training, and it's been like heavy going through all this training too for us as a team. And then obviously, we work with clients that have been through this stuff, and it's can be some heavy work. Obviously, it's very rewarding. That's why we do it, to be able to have people, give them a voice and be able to understand they're not alone. Because so many people potentially don't even share they're even pregnant, and then they've had a loss, right? So anything you'd both want to say about that?
Yeah, I know that we're going into a deeper conversation on our next episode here, and I definitely would encourage all of you that are listening to listen to this next one coming up, as well as share it with anyone that will listen, because you never know when someone in your circle is going to experience a loss. And some of the tips we'll have on that podcast are definitely going to be supportive. But some of the things that I see at this stage is some people don't realize that it's important to take time off now. If you have the ability to rest and allow yourself space, not only to grieve, but for your body to process what's going on, physically, mentally, emotionally, all of it, then please do. Also, inventory what's causing the pain to be a little more quiet and what's causing it to be louder, so that you can prioritize focusing on more activities that are a bit quieter. So maybe that means, more days at home, but for some people, maybe that means going out and being in your community. It's different for everybody. So if it's something you start doing, I would recommend writing it down, because when you're in a grief, it's really hard to remember what felt what way in the past. Sometimes you just think it was always bad, which, this is a really challenging, difficult, heavy time, but being able just to notice what made the pain a little quieter, and how can I spend more time on those types of activities.
Fatima, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, no, well said. And Sarah, to your point that, it was heavy. This is heavy. When you listen to this podcast, give yourself time to process it. Give yourself, especially if you've experienced it and it feels a little triggering, that's okay. That's normal. Give yourself space, to process it, and allow yourself to think about it, and allow yourself to understand how and where it's affecting you, where the emotions are sitting, where the grief is coming from. If you want to share it with someone, if you want to talk about it. It's really important for you to understand that it's okay to feel the grief. You're valid in your grief. As a team, I was sharing this with Sarah, having gone through several miscarriages as a support person. I'm completely okay providing the support. But having to delve into my own stories and my own emotions was much more triggering, sitting with this course by myself and understanding, what I went through on a personal level. And as you will probably go through on your journey, and trying to understand what's happening to you and where you're sitting. And to Sam's point, all the considerations you'll be taking in. Where is this pain sitting? Is it quiet? Is it loud? How do I want to express it? These are really important questions for you to consider and understand, and feel validated in that space. It's okay for you to deal with it however you want, because that is your truth. That is where you sit. That is where your feelings are. There's no right way to grieve. There's no right way to express what you're feeling. And so allow yourself that time and self-compassion and the space to really connect with yourself on your grief.
Yeah, that was beautifully said. And I would like to add to, if you're the partner of someone that's physically experiencing the loss, you can't fix this. And right now, the best thing you can do is just hold space for the grief that you're both experiencing. Sit in it together. Just be here right now. I think it can be really difficult for the person that isn't physically experiencing it to want to solve it or make it smaller. And that's not in either of your control. And so I think that's really important to recognize. There is a really great graphic that is called Growing Around Grief. You can probably easily Google it. It's from the book, What's Your Grief? And the diagram shows circles, and it says, people think that grief slowly gets smaller with time. In reality, grief stays the same size, but slowly life begins to grow bigger around it. And I think that's really important if you are someone caring for someone going through this grief, or someone that is actively going through it. Also recognizing that the grief of a pregnancy loss is very different than the grief of a loved one that you have memories and experiences with. This is, something that you didn't get to have those memories or those moments with this child that you've lost. And so being able to recognize that difference and honor that.
And then the last one we have here is the setting the boundaries around social media too. So just in general, when you're on the fertility journey, if you're following all your friends with sharing gender reveals and baby pictures and back to school or, wherever we are, holiday pictures, all that piece can be, maybe you're happy and maybe it's fine for you, but maybe it's just not sitting right. And it's okay to delete or block or, hide certain profiles.
I love that feature on most programs right now. Like I know Instagram has this, like you can mute somebody and they're not going to see that you muted them, but you're not going to see the picture of their belly bump growing or their little one at whatever stage. Like you can do that. And there's also there's resources too. There's a lot of different, if it's pregnancy loss, if it's, infertility, there are accounts out there that you can follow that may support you in your grief experience.
And there's a good account here called The Worst Girl Gang Ever. You can follow that. It's a grief account. You can go follow that one. That's a really great one. Obviously as part of our program, this is what we, this people that are on the fertility journey and experience loss, it's hard to explain to someone that perhaps hasn't been through it or even being on the fertility journey in itself. So having someone to, work with you and work through these emotions, and maybe you're a crier and maybe you're not, like all the things are valid of how you handle it, and to not judge yourself. And it is interesting with the partner, right? Typically we'll want to perhaps fix it, and he or she is equally suffering as much as you are. So it is to be able to, to validate both of you, even though, you may have gone through it from a medical standpoint, the partner wants to have the child just as much as you do. And so they don't need to be strong and brave for you. They can feel it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And they also feel powerless to help you, and they want to do everything in their power to help you. And unfortunately they can't. And that is devastating for them. That is jarring for them too. So they also have that grief, and then they have the additional grief of not being able to support you in the best way possible. But for the support person, for the partner, it's important to know that you're being there, you're holding hands, you're being at the appointments, you're being the shoulder to cry on, is all that person needs when they're experiencing this loss on a physical level.
That is such an important thing to bring up. If you're someone that's listening to this that hasn't experienced loss as well, and you're just listening to this to support people in your community, the best thing you can do, like Fatima just said, is just hold space. Say this absolutely sucks. This isn't, fair, whatever it is. Again, don't try to solve it. Don't say anything. Well, at least this, we hear that a lot, and you don't want to hear any of that feedback when you've had this loss. You want someone just to validate that this absolutely sucks and that you can't fix it. And all that we can do right now is sit here.
Any final thoughts today on our discussion?
Just when you're going through this, don't be alone. Don't it's an isolating journey, and it could feel like this, this is, of course it's your loss and it's huge for you, but connect with people who have, like Sam said, you can mute Instagram, and like Sarah, you're saying, connect with people who have gone through the loss. Surround yourself with resources and people who will help you get through the loss and the grief of the loss as well.
100%. And you are worthy and you are loved, and this is not your fault.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.